Good evening. A new survey by members of the pan-democratic camp has found that the public opposes Beijing's tight framework on political reform. But the group also warned that society is becoming more polarised than ever and called on the government to get their support if they want to remedy the situation. Raymond Yeung reports.
With the help of Lingnan University, a group of moderate pan-democrats conducted a survey this month on how the public perceived the issue of political reform. It found that 43% of its interviewees do not accept the conservative framework Beijing laid down on the city's political future, with only 33% supporting it. Among those who labeled themselves as pro-government, 90% gave the nod for Beijing's restrictive framework. But surprisingly, only 60% of pan-democratic supporters oppose the plan.
The statistics find polarized. I would sum up say it's more polarized than ever before.
Around half of the respondents think there's still room for negotiations with Beijing and hope the final reform package will be passed by lawmakers in Lechko.
It still have opportunities for the government for the second opinion consultation. Maybe in October, and then they have to really think about how to lobby, how to win the trust or lobby the support from the other side, not the pro-establishment camp.
But the pan-democrats have already vowed to boycott the second round of consultation, despite repeated calls from the government not to give up talks, a move that will put political reform into a standstill. Raymond Yeung, ATV News.
Lechko President Zheng Yuk-sing says he hopes lawmakers and the central government can strengthen communications during a proposed visit to Guangdong province led by Chief Executive Leung Cheng-ying. But Zheng said he may suggest postponing the trip if not enough pan-democrats are interested in going. Edna Dare reports.
Chief Executive Leung Cheng-ying plans to invite all 70 lawmakers to join him on a trip to Guangdong, possibly next month, when Lechko resumes after the summer holiday. Leung has asked Lechko President Zheng Yuk-sing to gather views from lawmakers for the trip, which is aimed at forging closer social and economic ties between members and the mainland. But many pan-democrats have vowed to boycott the visit because of the restrictions Beijing placed on electing Hong Kong's next leader. Several members, including Civic Party leader Alan Leung and Labour Party lawmaker Lee Cheuk-yan, said they will not go, while Democratic Party member Sin Chung-kai has slammed the trip as pointless. Zheng said he will continue to listen to monitor members, particularly pan-democrats, and may suggest postponing the trip if too few people want to go.
In future, when everybody is more comfortable with making such visits, we can have more communication between various parties in the Legislative Council and the mainland government. I believe that we should have a fair representation of the various parties in the Council if we do pay the visit.
Zheng hopes there can be more meetings between lawmakers and the central government.
If during the trip to the mainland, such occasions can be arranged, then I'd be very glad to see it happen. However, up to now, I haven't heard anything that suggests that that will be the case.
More than a dozen pan-democrats visited Shenzhen last month to meet Beijing's top basic law expert Li Fei and other mainland officials to discuss their concerns about universal suffrage.
A top security official has rejected accusations that police have made politically motivated arrests as a warning to members of the Occupy Central movement. This comes as the movement plans to bring the business hub to a standstill as early as next month and ahead of a week-long class boycott and protests by students. Raymond Yeung reports.
With the Occupy Central organisers hinting at starting their street blockade as early as next month, the government is preparing for the civil disobedience campaigners to paralyze the city's business district. Speaking at a charity event this morning, Security Under Secretary John Lee urged the public to voice their opinions in a law-abiding, peaceful and orderly manner. Anyone who plans to break the law must consider the consequences and legal liabilities. Li warned anyone who has signed up for Occupy Central. Li, who was Deputy Police Commissioner before taking up his current post, said sufficient preparation has been made to counter the threat, including drawing up contingency plans and conducting drills. He also denied accusations that the police made politically motivated arrests of activists to deter people from joining Occupy Central. 18 people were charged yesterday for involvement in a violent protest outside Lechko in June against a new town development. The activists involved appear to be surprised that they are in trouble with the law after trying to smash their way into a public building and damaging parts of it. They voiced their anger against what they are calling political arrests. Some of them marched from Southern Playground to Wan Chai Police Headquarters this afternoon. They also say the timing was meant as a warning for Occupy Central members. Li stressed that the prosecutions were only made after seeking legal advice from the judiciary, adding that it takes time to go through evidence and identify suspects. Meanwhile, officials say the city's prisons have enough room to house detainees from large-scale protests. Correctional Services Commissioner Sin Yat-kin said facilities are holding less than 9,000 people out of a possible 11,000. Even the Immigration Department has joined in the efforts, with Commissioner Eric Chan vowing to turn back suspicious travelers at the border and the airport. When asked to clarify the definition, Chen said it includes those suspected of posing a negative impact to the city. Ray Mingyang, ATV News.
The head of Lechko's Railway Subcommittee has criticised the government's plans to build 7 new rail projects as short-sighted. Michael Tien says demand on the West Rail may exceed its capacity after it is linked to the East Rail. Alison Chan reports.
Lechko's Railway Subcommittee Chairman Michael Tien took to the airwaves this morning and criticised the blueprints for the government's new railway developments unveiled last Wednesday. 6 new railway lines or extensions are expected to be built between 2018 and 2026, costing a whopping $110 billion. The mega projects include 2 new stations, Tuen Mun South and Hung Shui Kiu on the West Rail line, which will connect the East Rail via the Northern Link in the new territories. But Tien is worried there will be too many passengers on the West Rail line once it connects to the East Rail.
And you will add more passengers in the morning that have to go across the border, that have to go to the east side for schooling and for work. Those are the new passengers that will make West Rail even more congested. So whether Northern Link at this point is so critical, I have a question mark, because it's going to actually aggravate the congestion situation on the West Rail line at this point.
Tien accused the government of being short-sighted for not considering the possibility that the Tung Chung line will also be congested in a few years if plans for a new town and 3rd airport runway go ahead. He suggests the government build a new railway line linking Tuen Mun and Sunny Bay to Hong Kong Island. While he admitted that building railway lines is expensive, he thinks the MTRC can afford it. Meanwhile, Polytechnic University transport specialist Hong Wing Tat says the government's proposals have room for improvement and suggests extending the East Kowloon line from Po Lam to the University of Science and Technology to reduce traffic congestion in Sai Kung. Alison Chan, ATV News.
A 42-year-old South Asian driver was arrested after trying to evade a police roadblock early this morning in Yuen Long. Officers chased him to San Tin and Tin Shui Wai, and there are reports that the cars reached speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. The driver finally stopped after he lost control of his vehicle and rammed it into the central divider near the Tai Lam tunnel. He was arrested for furious driving and driving without a license or third-party insurance. A Green group has come up with a few ideas it says will help the government with its plan to charge people for how much waste they use. One idea is to install cameras at rubbish collection areas to spy on people who might try to dump rubbish illegally. Ann Cheng reports.
Last month, the Council for Sustainable Development Subcommittee proposed a waste charging scheme that could cost households $44 a month and start in 2016. But Green Group Greeners Action, which thinks people should be charged per household, is worried that the council will decide to charge for waste per building because it's easier. So the environmentalists have come up with some ideas they say will help the council get households to pay for the waste they produce. Greeners Action Executive Director Angus Ho said they include increasing the number of waste collection points across the city so it's more convenient for people to dispose of rubbish. They also suggest that the government installs cameras so it can spy on people throwing out their rubbish and hire staff to police refuse areas and catch anyone illegally dumping trash. Since some estates don't have management companies to handle their rubbish, Greeners suggests people in the buildings simply hire a company to do it for them. One of their more vague suggestions is that villagers should get assigned times at nearby waste collection points to discard their rubbish. They also think the special prepaid plastic bags for disposing of rubbish should be free for poor families, and there should be people to help the physically handicapped throw out their rubbish. Ho also said his group has designed its own bag, which he says is bigger, stronger, and has information about waste reduction on it. Greeners says ultimately people should focus more on using less and recycling the rubbish instead of just throwing it away. The group did not give an estimate of how much its ideas would cost. Ann Chang, ATV News.
At least 3 people are dead and tens of thousands without power after a tropical storm battered southern Taiwan. Strong wind and rain forced flights and ferry services to be cancelled as the storm scraped the southern tip of the island at around 10 o'clock this morning. Joyce Wu reports.
Tropical storm Feng Wong, which left 10 dead in the Philippines, pounded Taiwan today with torrential downpours and strong winds. Large waves battered the south coast, forcing thousands of tourists and residents to leave. Packing winds of 90 kilometers per hour, Feng Wong dumped up to 60 centimeters of rain on the island. Dozens of domestic and international flights were cancelled, and ferry services to the offshore islands and the mainland were suspended. Meanwhile, the bodies of 2 firemen who went missing 51 days ago after a series of gas explosions ripped up a road in Kaohsiung were found. The remains were discovered last night and their fellow firefighters used their bare hands to dig them out. The explosions occurred on the 31st of July when some underground pipes burst. The 2 firemen were sent to help with rescue efforts but were crushed by a huge concrete slab.
Tens of thousands of Syrian Kurds have fled to Turkey to escape advancing Islamic State fighters. But first, in our international roundup, there's been another exchange of prisoners between Ukraine and separatist rebels.
In a sign that a 16-day-old ceasefire between Ukraine and separatist rebels is holding, the 2 sides exchanged more prisoners along a road in the north of the Donetsk region. Buses carrying captured separatist fighters drove along a street and through a checkpoint. A total of 38 people have been released by each side. The deal, which was struck in Minsk, is an attempt to build on a 5th of September ceasefire agreement, which has been regularly violated. Tens of thousands of Syrian Kurds have crossed into Turkey this weekend, fleeing Islamic State fighters who have seized dozens of villages close to the border. This comes as dozens of hostages were released by the extremists yesterday. The wife of a British hostage held by the militants has pleaded with them to see it in their hearts to release him. According to Britain's Foreign Office, Alan Henning's wife said she had sent messages to ISIS but had not had a response so far. The militants threatened to kill the 47-year-old last Saturday. The streets in Sierra Leone's capital Freetown were deserted for the second day of a 4-day curfew aimed at halting the worst outbreak of Ebola on record. The government's move came as there were reports of yet more victims, as authorities sweep through towns and villages looking for infected people.
They met about almost 13 people, and they were all actually Ebola patients. Few deaths were already reported, which otherwise we would never have known about if we had not instituted this particular exercise.
Most of the residents respected the lockdown as volunteers circulated, educating people about the disease, isolating the sick and removing the dead. Ebola has infected more than 5,300 people in West Africa this year, mainly in Sierra Leone, Guinea and Liberia, killing around half of them.
Sports news: Olympic cyclist Sarah Lee has won Hong Kong's first gold medal at the Asian Games in the South Korean city of Incheon. Lee powered to victory in the women's keirin final.
This gold medal means a lot for me. Yes, because I think everyone knows that it's very hard and difficult to get gold medal in every